All right, all right. What's up, everybody? Welcome. Guy here, Guy Haberman, live on YouTube, where you can like and subscribe, and in the podcast feed. It's great to have you. Well, all we have is this moment that we live in together. I mean, and just think about how lucky are we to experience together a season filled with some of the worst 49ers games, a good team, like a good Niners team, in theory, a team that's supposed to be good. You know, I'm just saying, like, not the Cody Pickett era. We have witnessed some of the most frustrating, demoralizing, downright bad football games. The Rams game was disaster. The Vikings game, I'm not even putting in this category. But the Rams game and the Cardinals game, two of the worst losses of the Shanahan era. And then, you know, on paper, you lose to the Chiefs. They're 20-4. Andy Reid off buys. They're 4-0 against you. What do you expect? It makes it so desperate when a win makes you 4-3 and a loss makes you 3-4. But it just looks like one of the most disheveled, disconnected, discombobulated, disenfranchising, dystopian, distasteful, decapitated, dysentery 49er games of the era. I mean, just brutal. Hey, before I go any further, I do want to tell you, though, a shining bright light in a day of doom. Here's what I know about the Adler brothers and my sponsor, Pesto Mexican Artisan Kitchen. They are Niner fans. They're going to put on their hard hats at Pesto and get back to work because the people need elite Mexican food. And that's what they're going to do. They're Niner fans, all right? They've built an empire of a family-owned, knock it out of the park every time, no letdown games type of restaurant. And if you're going to Niners-Cowboys, feels a little early to talk about Niners-Cowboys, but if you're going to Niners-Cowboys, you're going to want to go to Pesto. They got 2 locations at Levi's. Between now and then, they got 2 locations in the Bay Area, Concord, Santa Clara. They got locations in Southern California, in Orange County, and San Diego. All right. They are absolutely killing it. Rain or shine, rain being like, you know, it's sunny out, but this type of rain. The Baja fried fish, the crispy shrimp tacos. They wrap those tacos in melted cheese and it's crisped up. They got margarita. Who needs a margarita? Who needs a margarita right now? We all need a margarita right now. Well, they got the margaritas with the fresh strawberry, the fresh lime juice. They're serving those at Levi's, and they're serving a ton of different drink options, but a ton of margaritas at their restaurants. So many great appetizers. Taco Tuesday starting at 3 p.m. in the restaurants. Dine in, half off. But if you're going to the game, you want to get that filet mignon taco. I never even heard of a filet mignon taco before the great folks at Pesto. The one thing I can count on with them, it's like, they bring their A game every time. You're going to thank me. My personal favorite, the short rib quesadilla taco. All right. It's got juicy short rib, the ooey gooey, crispy melted cheese, the Jalisco salsa with a little kick. It's fantastic. You love seafood. They got the swordfish. They got the Baja fish. They got the shrimp. They got lobster tacos, the filet mignon, the quesadilla, the short rib. I told you about that. They've got something. If you just want the veggie, they got that. It's all there. It's all good. It's at Levi Stadium. Nothing better. Nobody in a stadium is making tortillas. I know this. Their tortillas are not as flat as the 49ers offense was today. So thank you, Pesto. A shining light in a day of darkness. Always there and reliable, no matter what. They are Niner fans, so, you know, they know what you're feeling. And they'll feed you right. They'll treat you right at Pesto. Thank you to Pesto for the sponsorship. All right. 49ers lose. 28-18. I think everybody with one eye, even with no eyes, you could see coming into this game, losing was a real possibility. Early on, it just felt so unlike a Niner game in that it was, I think normally with the 49ers, for better or worse, we've watched enough of this that you can kind of know what's coming. You can predict, you can feel it coming. When Mahomes threw that first interception in the red zone on the deflected pass, it was the first time I realized, like, this game, they could very well lose this game. There's no doubt about it. But also they could win it in a weird way. Like, the Chiefs aren't bringing their A game. The Niners aren't bringing their A game, and that means somebody is winning this game without their A game. That was pretty obvious from the jump. I mean, you look at the final numbers offensively, Mahomes 16 of 27, 59%. Purdy 17 of 31, 55%. Mahomes threw for 154, no touchdowns, 2 picks, although one of the picks was receiver fell down. Great catch by Lenore. Purdy 212, 3 picks, although one of the picks, for both of them, it was like the pick to Ronnie Bell was, I think you have to expect that's a Ronnie Bell thing. But it was just mostly bad. It was mostly bad in the run game. I mean, look at this. Mahomes was 5.7 yards per attempt. Purdy was 6.8. And this is where, and we'll get to Purdy. We'll talk about all these things. But this is where I talked about it this week. Like, I am pro Brock Purdy as a general rule. I think he's generally right. Like, I think he's a really good player. I think he's one of the better quarterbacks in the league, top 10 range. But we've reached a point with Mahomes where it's just not about stats. It's about making plays. And again, Kansas City made plays, and the 49ers just could not. What was the difference between the two teams today? I'll tell you the difference between the two teams. Dude's getting hurt left and right, it felt like, for Kansas City. Niners, less than 100%. Debo's got, I don't know, food poisoning. I don't know what. Debo got sick. Aiyuk makes a sweet play, gets hurt. Jennings, not available. Obviously, we know McCaffrey's not around, right? This is a massive percentage of last year's. When you include Elijah Mitchell, the 49ers are down 73% of their touches from last year with Debo, Aiyuk, Jennings, McCaffrey, and then you add to it Elijah Mitchell if you want, whatever. But Kansas City's losing guys too. I mean, their leading receiver today, Noah Gray, 4 catches, 66 yards. So they made it happen. They had Juju got hurt early in the game. They made it happen. And I just thought the Niners seemingly Shanahan has refused to get Jacob Cowing involved until he absolutely has to, with the exception of special teams. He lets him play special teams. He's allowed because we got no better options, right? But other than that, up until desperation time, you can't get him in the mix. And what does Andy Reid do? They don't necessarily push the ball down the field a ton, although they did a little. They took that shot to start the second half and almost hit it. But they just create around the line of scrimmage. It's, in a way, like there's things the Chiefs do that's very NFL. For example, college teams run the ball a lot on third down and short. The NFL teams generally, it's an NFL thing to throw it on 3rd and 2. Happens a lot more in the NFL. The Chiefs, I had it up here. Last year, the Chiefs threw the ball on 3rd down 78%, which a lot of people go, okay, well, yeah, you're 3rd and 7. You should be throwing it, whatever. It's just an NFL thing. And when you look at the percentages. So that's very NFL. But I think what is a little collegial in a good way, a credit to Andy Reid, is when they have teams, and they had this last year too, where they just don't have a ton of playmakers on offense. They find guys, at least they don't have a downfield passing game is a better way to say it, but they find ways to get athletes involved in areas that are beneficial. End arounds, quick throws around the line of scrimmage, bubble screens, which the Niners like, mostly as long as it's Debo. But to me, that's a great way when you're struggling to protect, with the Niners again having protection issues. Quick throws to athletic guys around the line of scrimmage. I mean, Ricky Pearsall, great to see him back on the field. Didn't really separate on that 2-point play at all. Jacob Cowing got loose down the field, gets open, beats his man. They threw him a bubble or like a quick screen finally late. But to me, that is like, okay, what do we have? What ingredients do we have here? And let's just try to put those guys in position. How about a couple quick screens to Garendo? How about that? How about some quick throws to Cowing? How about we set one up for Ricky Pearsall? Like all those Debo plays, just throw it to those guys. And that, to me, was the difference. Like Chiefs players went down. At no point no one's watching Andy Reid going, well, his game plan shot. He lost Juju. Now, Juju is not Debo, obviously. But that was frustrating to see the Niners in a situation where they had to go to Cowing or they had to go to Pearsall. And they just didn't do it around the line of scrimmage, with the exception of the one quick screen to Cowing in the red zone. That was a really good play. So that felt to me like the difference of the game. Missed chances, no doubt. They were ready. Credit them. They left their defense on the field. They left their defense on the field on that first fourth down. You just know Dave Taub. They're going to have a 2-week break. Like the Chiefs are going to do something on special teams. Why wouldn't you attack the 49ers special teams? I made a note. I make notes at the beginning of the game. Just some questions I have today. Connor, keep that super chat around. We'll get back to it. But we just had some notes. Don't keep it up there. Just keep it around. We'll get back to that. Connor's here working behind the scenes. Poor guy's in Kansas City right now. But one of my notes was, how do the 49ers special teams screw this up today? And to their credit, it was a multi-tiered effort to screw it up. They didn't do it on their own. And it wasn't, special teams gets the credit for the fourth down stop, but it was the defense that was on the field. But credit to everybody else having their head up to know fourth down and short at midfield, maybe we should keep the defense on the field. But, you hear about complimentary football. The 49ers, it was complimentary screw up today. Like that, the drive before the Chiefs make it 14-3. What is it? Niners fifth. There were a lot of possessions in this game too. For it felt like more than expected. But the Niners had a back-to-back sequence. I have to laugh. It's just too ridiculous. The Niners had a back-to-back sequence where Brock throws one off the back of Pooney's head. All right. Hits Pooney at first, like, guess Chris Jones got his arm up. Nope. Hit Pooney in the back of the head. And you're like, oh, God, what now? Then he drops. He goes from one of his worst passes of the day, hitting one of his own linemen in the back of his head, to maybe his best throw of the day, over the shoulder in the bucket to Aiyuk, who just drops it. Just a straight up drop. Then they punt, and Wisnowski had to almost make a tackle. He didn't make a play. So that 3-play sequence, hit Pooney in the back of the head, drop it in the bucket, Aiyuk can't catch it, to a big punt return by the Chiefs, and then they score a touchdown, go up 14-3. Now, I'll tell you this. I had no doubt. 14-3, first half, like the Chiefs are not playing well enough for the 49ers to get back in this game, to not get back in this game. So I wasn't concerned then. You just knew Kansas City was going to give you opportunities, which meant, what does that mean? It means it's just going to come down to somebody making some winning plays in the fourth quarter. Kansas City did. But anyway, there were so many sequences like that were just brutal. I mean, the D winners, they really miss Dre Greenlaw. I mean, Fred Warner misses the tackle on Mahomes, can't do it all himself. D winners is just, when people say, it's a young buck, like running around, overrunning plays. It's fast. It's athletic. But, man, they just have they are young in some spots. The injuries have created situations where you look up and go, how is Ronnie Bell not ready? How is these are not young. I mean, they're young, but they didn't just get here 6 months ago. Why is Ronnie Bell not in the right spot? Why is D Winters still running around a little out of control at times? I think they've had some young guys over the years that you're like, all right, Jair Brown, I think it's a good player. Let's see. Year 2, let's see. Year 3, let's see. And we all know that when you hit on a young guy, what does it look like? It looks like Malik Mustafa right away. That's what it looks like. Just right away, a month, 2 months in the season, you go, yeah, good player. Malik Mustafa, impact. And they had so many young guys that we're all just waiting on. Well, maybe it'll be D Winners. Somebody hit me with the D winners, played well. Yeah, he was more. This is why I thought coming out of camp, Devondre Campbell, like this guy would play over him because at least he's flying around. I'm not saying he's doesn't do good things, but there is a lack of young kind of development that you can count on with this team. Lenore developed, Mustafa hit. Yeah, I know he ran into a brick wall of Mahomes on that last touchdown, or not the last touchdown, but on the touchdown. But all in all, there were multiple plays where Malik Mustafa, the play looks like it's going to go for 15 yards, and it goes for 5. He got beat on the deep ball, got overthrown. But this has been, from a math standpoint, let me say something. From an injury standpoint, this has been a disastrous season for them. And yet they're in these games with chances to win. And for the most part, it feels like against the better teams, do the losing things. And the game against the Rams, did the Rams put away the Raiders today? Did they get their second win of the season? Are we doing this as that game ended? Yes. The Rams are now 2-4 after a 20-15 win over the Raiders. All right. They lost that game. They lost to the Cardinals, who play on Monday night. Those losses are going to haunt them. Haunt them. This should be, after a bad, ugly performance against the Kansas City Chiefs, you go, all right, whatever. Instead of 3-4, you're 5-2, and no, it's no biggie. But that's not the situation they're in. And it's just frustrating to see them not be able to create. And I said this last week, there are games that, and especially when you lose players, kind of every game becomes this way, where your quarterback has to help your coach and your coach has to help your quarterback. And it just didn't really feel like they helped each other. Brock didn't really feel like he made Kyle Shanahan better, and Kyle did not really feel like he made Brock Purdy better. So, now, because it's a weird year in the NFC, and specifically because you're in the NFC West, you come back and beat the Cowboys in Sunday Night Football next week. You're 4-4 going into the bye. Then you play the Bucs. Then you play the Seahawks. It's crazy to talk this way, but you can be 6-4 going to the Packers. I know there are people who just don't want to hear that after this game, which I understand, because it's one thing to lose. It's another thing to lose when the Chiefs just open the door wide open for you. Yikes. All right, where's that super chat? Let's get back to that. And then there are some specific things I want to get to obviously on Brock. All right, this is from Thomas. It says the game felt like playoffs, losing Aiyuk and Debo after Jennings crippled us. Our D balled and contained Mahomes. It will get better when we are healthier. Will they get healthier at all? Is health coming? Is Christian McCaffrey, is help on the way? They kept showing him on the sideline. I know he's been working out a little more. Is help on the way? I saw somebody sent me there was a chat there that somebody said, like, should they shut McCaffrey down? Like, is it even worth it this year? Yeah, I mean, in this it's worth it. If you think he's not about to pop an Achilles. I mean, you got to clear him to play and just clear him to play. But you absolutely bring him back. They've had, it's bad break after bad break after bad break. But the Chiefs have had plenty of bad breaks. So that's not an excuse. They've had years where they've had really bad injury luck. Not luck. Do they have bad injuries? This year feels crazy. This year feels crazy. But if they were getting blown out, you'd go, all right. Well, but they have chances, and they just are missing chance after chance after chance. It's crazy. there been an Aiyuk update yet? Rap sheet. Is this real rap sheet? Yeah, real rap sheet. Here we go. Kyle Shanahan told reporters that Aiyuk is feared to have torn his ACL. If the MRI confirms that, he'll be out for the season. All righty. Fantastic. Wild. So is Ricky Pearsall ready? Is Kyle Shanahan ready? Maybe that's the better question. You know, Ricky Pearsall's whatever he is. Jacob Cowing's whatever he is. Sometimes it falls on the coach to find a way. Instead of saying, this guy's too young, he doesn't know what to do, he's not ready for this, it's on the coach to find a way to put him in positions to be successful. And they have gone several times to Ronnie Bell. Jacob Cowing was not on the field on that red zone interception. Has Jacob Cowing earned, just needs to be on the field? It was after a big play, but they ran the ball again. He could have caught his breath. Right? They're trying to squeeze the ball into double coverage to Chris Conley. Is Kyle Shanahan ready to take these young receivers? If indeed Brandon Aiyuk has an ACL injury and they fear he's out for the year, is he ready to adapt a little bit and go, okay, normally I don't trust these guys. They don't know the whole playbook yet. It's complicated. Let's find ways to get them involved more. What'd they do in college? How do we integrate them quickly into this offense and take advantage of it? And not put, when you draft Ricky Pearsall, you hope he's on a 2-year plan. When you draft Jacob Cowing, you hope he's on a 2-year plan. Well, guess what? No more time for that. The good news is Kittle looks dialed. But this is going to be a big test. Big test. Third down, Connor's got a little stat here. Good stat. Third down before garbage time. Niners entered play this week, 45% on third down, 5th best in the NFL. Before garbage time, Niners were 1 of 10, Chiefs were 8 of 14. Yeah, the Niners started, I think, 0 of 7 on third down. And having a go-to receiver is a big part of that. Having a guy that you just know can get open and you get him the ball, right? What you want Aiyuk to be is a part of that. Jennings really hurts when he's not there. So Kyle was, slow to acknowledge that Cowing's ready. You just have to find a way for him to be ready. And if that means he doesn't know everything, then you put him in a position, you do what he knows. You do what Pearsall knows. And the time is now. So, what normally happens in this spot is it becomes Debo time, right? Like I expect against the Cowboys, as long as Debo doesn't, once the stomach bug is gone or whatever he had, the flu, like Debo's going to touch the ball 25 times next week against the Dallas Cowboys. And you know what? It's going to open up opportunities for Jacob Cowing and Ricky Pearsall. But that's what's about to happen. What a disastrous year for Brandon Aiyuk by every measure. I don't think you can look at that play that he got hurt on and say, well, that's a result of not being in training camp, right? That's not what you're talking about here with him. But it's not like he was having a great year. He got paid a ton of money. I think he perhaps forever changed the way the fan base looks at him. It's one thing to hold out, make it difficult, get paid, come out and ball. But with the exception of the Cardinals game, he hadn't come out and balled. And in fact, it's like making mistakes for a sure-handed guy. A drop in a clutch spot in a big game when your team needs a big play, when they need you to step up, when Debo's out, when Jennings is out, when McCaffrey's out. And he didn't step into that opportunity. And I just kept thinking, well, there's a lot of season. Eventually he'll shake off whatever is hanging over his head from the offseason. Maybe it's rust. Some people would tell you, well, it's just the offseason. If you're not going to work out with your guys, you're going to be rusty. I think it's that. I wondered if the whole experience of the offseason Just rattled him a little. Obviously, he created a lot of it, but it just puts you in a position. You spend all this time looking for a fight, and then it's time to settle down and just be the dude that you're telling everybody you are. And it's an uncomfortable position of your own making. And so he wasn't creating. He wasn't earning the money. And now, not his fault. It's football, gets hurt. And there's a whole other conversation there about this is one of the youngest guys on the team. And obviously one of the most highly paid guys on the team. And I don't know in the big picture what's going to happen with Debo. Some of you have heard me say over the years repeatedly, or not over the years, over the last few months repeatedly, like I'm not as fast as everybody else to just run Debo out in 2025. There's just this assumption that they're not going to find a way. They can't afford him. He doesn't make enough impact. Blah, 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 blah. But on this team this year, who would you rather have? Debo Samuel. I hate to say that. It felt like, okay, is this the year Aiyuk is going to supplant Debo as their most important receiver? And the answer to that, unless they get better news than they're expecting out of the MRI, the answer to that is no. This is not going to be the year. So it was a disastrous negotiation. And now for 2024, it's a disastrous signing. I supported doing it. You can't control the ACL injury. But, this is nothing short of a major turning point in his career. And you hope that he can come back healthy physically and can live up to the billing, of what you paid him mentally after this. But, when we have these debates about whether or not Brock is worth whatever money, this is it now. When Kyle Shanahan, when you've got $15 million coaches, like this is it. You don't win championships without great players. Every coach that's won a championship has had great players. They still have great players. Their backs are really against the wall. Here we go. Beating or not beating the Chiefs isn't the one that makes or breaks your season. That's a championship team. Even on their worst day, that's a championship team. You know who's not a championship team? The Dallas Cowboys. That's who you play next. You know who's not a championship team? The Bucs. That's who you play after that. You know who's not a championship team? The Seahawks. Can you beat them? You got today you played a championship team. Ugly game. Everyone's pissed about it. Everyone's down about it. Legit, fine. But that's a championship team. They left the door open for you. You couldn't walk through it. Fine. You're not winning a championship on October 20th. You're just trying to get to the playoffs. The Chiefs aren't the ones that make or break that. Losing to the Rams, that one hurts. Losing to the Cardinals, that one hurts. You play the Cowboys next. They're not a championship team. So go beat them. Go beat them. They've had their ass kicked multiple times this year. Just go beat them. Man. All right, let's talk about Brocktober here. Brock Purdy. Bad game. Bad game. This is what I said last week, because all these stats, I went through them all, if you saw the video. Some people made an early conclusion on what that video was about before watching it, or if you heard the podcast. But I went through it last week. Brock Purdy had, Mahomes beat in every PFF category. And I think I have enough respect for Brock as a player that I think he's elevated to a point that you're doing everybody a disservice if you go to the numbers, the PFF numbers or otherwise, and go, see, he's better in all these categories than Mahomes. Look, how come nobody's acknowledging that? Careers are made of much more football than the 2.5 years of NFL football that Brock has quarterbacked. But I've seen enough in 2.5 years of Brock Purdy quarterbacking to think that he's a pretty good player. I also think that he's reached a point where we have to recognize, like Mahomes, who's done it, 3 Super Bowl MVPs, he's done so much more. It's not even close how much more he's done, how much more he's earned. He has earned so much that I don't check his box score. I don't look at his stats. I go, what's he winning? And the answer is big games and championships, right? Mahomes, he's not having a great year. I agree. But guess what? They're 6-0. Like, they don't have their fastball. They're 6-0. So this is what I said last week before the game. Let's just chill on the comparisons. Brock Purdy's his own player on his own team with his own work to do. Neither one of them was great today. They each had chances to make plays. So understand this. I like Brock Purdy. I think he's a top 10 quarterback. And I've said this repeatedly, and every time I say what I'm about to say, I lose people lose their minds. One of the reasons he's special is what he's got between his ears. Okay? And he needs that. One of the reasons he needs it is because he doesn't have an elite arm. And what makes him so amazing is without an elite arm, he still makes elite throws. His anticipation is critical. That's why I thought Aiyuk was such a critical signing for them, because Brandon Aiyuk's in the right place at the right time. Ronnie Bell not. Picked today. He made some bad decisions. He threw, it's one thing, the Ronnie Bell interception, honestly, whatever. I feel about that one the same way I feel about the Mahomes. It was backbreaking, the Mahomes interception to Deommodore Lenoir. The other two picks were not. Now, I know he gets hit, okay? He gets hit on the third pick in the red zone. So it's not so much the interception that bothered. He was about to throw, and even Brady said this. He was about to throw into double coverage in the red zone to Chris Conley. The first pick was crazy. Throwing with some anticipation, a very interceptable ball, never saw the DB, trying to lead Kittle, disaster pick. So each one of those individual picks has their own story to them. But to me, where it really showed up was on the deep ball to Cowing and on the deep ball to Kittle. Both balls forced the receiver to slow down. And both plays were very explosive, but could have been more. And they left something on the table in a game where it turned out they couldn't leave anything on the table. And so that is, if I say flaw, people are going to think it's too strong. If I say deficiency, people are going to say it's too strong. That is part of what makes the other stuff he does really special. You see how I'm saying that in a glass half full way? So people trying to make people hear it without losing their minds. But it showed up today, which is fine. They can still win it. You can win a championship with a quarterback that doesn't have an elite arm and that doesn't hit every home run throw that's available. But you know what they have not had in a long time? What they tried to get with Danny Gray was they can get open the way that Jacob Cowing did today, just with stutter and speed. Go. And he underthrew it. And Cowing still made the play, and it was still explosive, and it was big, and that was awesome. But it was a missed opportunity in a game where there just wasn't enough time. Now, would it have mattered? Maybe Kansas City was going to keep scoring. Was Kittle really going to run away from Reed? And there was another, I don't know if it was a safety or a corner coming over. Maybe they would have tracked Kittle down. I think it's a little self-serving to say that Kittle play would have been a touchdown if he'd hit him in stride instead of a 41-yard play. Maybe. The Cowing play, that's a touchdown if he hits him in stride, and he didn't. And that's just an example of some of the other stuff he has to overcome. If that's the biggest problem today, then no biggie. But it wasn't. The Niners played Steve Spagnuolo in the Super Bowl. Kyle Shanahan, Brock Purdy, your quarterback and your coach, when your coach is the offensive coordinator, are a unit. They're a family unit. They work together. They are two brains trying to solve one problem. And they didn't solve the problem in critical moments last year in the Super Bowl or this year in the Super Bowl. They got, for the most part, beat by the blitzes. And just looked rattled from that offense looked rattled from the jump. And that's both of them. Like if your offense looks rattled from the start, it's the quarterback and the play caller. And it was both things. And Kyle couldn't find enough solutions, and Purdy made some critical errors. This is not, we don't go back to the drawing board and wonder, can he play at all? Against a championship team who they won't see again until the Super Bowl. That's not me saying they're making the Super Bowl. It's twice now against that group. Well, it's more than twice, but Super Bowl and now today. Comment, Purdy is turning into a pumpkin before our eyes. Happy Halloween, everyone. I'm not there with that. But how about the third down throw to Aiyuk where he missed him badly and Brady goes, what did he say? He goes, it was a bad throw and even worse protection. I thought it was just a bad throw. But the protection wasn't great. They got a protection issue. They have a protection issue. Marcone says, our O-line is trash, but sure, it's all on Purdy. No one's saying that. Everyone gets so bent out of shape. You criticize Brock Purdy. Not even criticize, just observe. Nick, 10 on the super chat. There is no Super Bowl hope. Kyle has not broken through or fixed his issue. Cap is in a bad spot. Purdy 60 mil. That's too much. You might do a mini rebuild because this is not a Super Bowl team. Are playoffs enough? Are playoffs enough? Well, the short answer to that is yes. Like right now, if I told you this team makes the playoffs, do you want to take that or do you want to roll the dice? I say they make the playoffs, they don't win the Super Bowl. Or they don't even go to the Super Bowl. Do you want to take that or you roll the dice, they're Super Bowl? You would take that. Like you would get in the dance, find a way. You're going to host an NFC North team probably. And if you win that game, then you're going to Detroit. I did say Detroit was going to beat Minnesota today. It was Minnesota put up a fight. Good effort by Minnesota. Both those teams. Great home fields. But if you can go win this division, you got a shot. Go get a playoff game. All right? You go get a playoff game. But you're asking about more than that. Cap is in a bad spot. Purdy 60 mil. That's too much. I've said I still think that the grand scheme window is still open for this team. Retool just means, rebuild. Like, what does that mean to you? Does that mean trade Debo? I mean, they would trade Debo whether they're potentially trying to win a Super Bowl or not. So there's, I think it's all kind of in the same boat. You're not choosing one or the other. In 2025. Like what? Because you're not trading Christian McCaffrey coming off an injury. You might trade Debo even if you were trying to win a championship. You're not getting it. Like you're not getting a second round pick for Debo Samuel anyway, right? So I think all you can do if you're them is put your head forward and try to make the playoffs this year and try to be a championship team next year. That's all you can do. Start getting younger. I mean, they are. It's drafting, but there's not like a bunch of moves with star players they want. If you're talking about trading star players, then that's the conversation you're having. Other than that, it's basically in the NFL. It's not basketball. It's not baseball where you get rid of all your guys for prospects and then try again, because you're not trading established stars for like young emerging stars, right? So it's all kind of basically the same thing, unless you're tanking for a draft pick, which they're not going to do, nor should they. Aiyuk's injury was definitely worth a whole offseason of drama. No kidding. Yeah, there's no comment. How are you going to rebuild? You think you get a franchise QB, sign the franchise receiver who may be hurt? What are we selling? There's no rebuild. There's evolve, get these young receivers involved. Like If I told you at the end of the year, they found a way to get Cowing, they found a way to get Pearsall, you felt good about the defensive coordinator, McCaffrey came back healthy. You know what I mean? Like, find a way to win this division, get to the playoffs, hope that McCaffrey's back and healthy, Jennings is back and healthy. You've worked Cowing and Pearsall in, and maybe you can be a better team then than you are today. Like, that option still exists. Almost got a third specialist hurt today. Almost got a third kicker hurt. So they broke that streak. Nathan, trade Debo, maybe Kittle, Juice, hit a bit of a reset, keep the good young players like Purdy, Pearsall, maybe use the picks you acquire to get a good alignment. Like, here, trading George Kittle, I know that sometimes you look like their most reliable player today. You do not do that when if you're about to invest in a young quarterback, right? With Brock. Kittle's your shot. Like, when you are a top 5 franchise, top 8, when you're one of the richest franchises in the league, one of the biggest brands in the league, I don't think you should operate that way. It'd be one thing if you told me you're getting a top 10 pick for George Kittle, but you're not. So, what else did I have on Purdy? Kyle needed his help today, and he needed Kyle's, and they didn't help themselves. But I thought there was a flash of something there with Cowing on the deep ball. Comment, who cares if they beat the Cowboys? I mean, the math. You're 4-4. Going into your bye, playing the Bucs and the Seahawks next. Chance to be 6-4. Beating Seattle is going to be a big deal because right now they're in first place in the division. So you need that tiebreaker with Seattle because clearly nobody is running away with the NFC West. So I care if they beat the Cowboys. It makes them 500, gives them a shot to win the division, make the playoffs. It matters a lot. Like, to me, there's still that window. Especially as long as the McCaffrey carrot is still out there, keep your head above water, be an above 500 team when McCaffrey comes back. All things considered, that gives you a chance. Like, that's good. Oh, well, they didn't do the same things that the Chiefs did today. That's true. It's Patrick Mahomes. Let Ward and Hargrave walk. I mean, yeah, Hargrave, you got to find a way out. Sign Diamador Lenore. Yep. No max deal for Purdy. I've been, we'll see what happens with that. I'm not convinced that Brock Purdy gets the biggest quarterback contract. Niner, bang. Yay, we're making the playoffs, LOL. That is the goal. Get McCaffrey healthy, win the division, make the playoffs, get into the dance, see what happens. If your down year is make the playoffs and everyone's mad, that means you've still got a pretty good operation going. That's not you're not hanging banners for that. But let's not pretend like that's some bullshit goal either. At this point, when you're 3-4 and all your good players are hurt, all your pets' heads are falling off. That's still a valuable thing. And you lose in the first round at home, you go, or on the road, whatever, you go, that was a failure of a season. But that hasn't happened. That hasn't happened yet. So you just got to get yourself there. But there's a lot to figure out about Kyle Shanahan, about the players they drafted, and most importantly, for the future of this franchise, the quarterback. They are, for all of the things that make the 49ers very unlucky this year, they're also lucky. And the question with them is, are they good enough to take advantage of their luck? And what is their luck? Their luck is that the first place team in the NFC West is Geno Smith. And that the other team is Kyler and the other team is the Rams. We'll see what happens on. Like, you should be rooting for the Chargers on Monday night. But as is the case always in life, just when you think you're unlucky, you are simultaneously lucky. And they are lucky that this very bad season so far is happening at a time when the NFC West is average at best. Average at best. It's a gift. It's a gift. Be thankful. Super chat. Hold on one second. Super chat from Mars. No adjustments during halftime is Kyle's biggest flaw! Exclamation point. I don't understand how we always lose to the Chiefs. Brock's worst games have been Ravens and Chiefs. Yeah, they have been. I think the Ravens game last year was it worse? I mean, like on paper, I think it was worse. It felt worse. This game, you had more opportunities to actually compete, despite the struggles in this game. But that game was bad. I did think, the Niners had a second and third down and short, got stuffed running the ball. They come back the next possession, second and short, third and short, throw the ball, fail. And I said, they're trying to be Kansas City, and they're not Kansas City. And a lot of people said to me, well, they failed on second and third down on the previous drive. Keep running the ball, which they did. Like, to their credit, they finally got Jordan Mason going late in that game. I thought the quarterback sneak play on the goal line was a great play. Not enough of that creative. Not enough of that, though. Not enough of those kind of really creative plays. But the Niners offense did come out in the second half. They got the pick, which helped. But they came out and scored. Then they get a 3-and-out, a Kelsey, the Ward play, PBU. They get the ball back. They move quickly down the field, feeding Mason, and then the interception to Ronnie Bell. And they got him going. But to me, it was about high percentage throws to athletes. Get the ball to Cowing in space. Get the ball to Pearsall in space. Any more super chats we missed there, Connor? I think that was it. That was all of those. What else do we have here? Yeah, Garendo fumble alarm. And it wasn't a fumble because he was out of bounds. It was a tough play. Didn't love it. Kyle Shanahan on alert, I'm sure. Because he's sensitive to those things. I'm just going through some of the game notes. Can Jordan Mason protect the ball? That was a note I had before the game to myself. Tough-ass game. Another tough-ass game for Jordan Mason. That is I'd hesitate to call it a bright spot today. It was not a bright spot today. But when it was all said and done, Jordan Mason was 4 yards a carry. Now long at 26, you take that out, it's going to be 13 carries for 32 yards. But he gave them a shot by being a tough-ass dude today. Coming back from the separated shoulder. And I wondered about his ball security. He was in a lot of traffic. Like, it wasn't like he was bursting through big holes all day long. And he held on to the rock. So I got to give Jordan Mason some credit after that performance. I think you got to give Kittle some credit. You'd like this. I mean, not that this is about credit today. They need Juwan Jennings back. I mean, that, to me, a big story of this week is going to be, is Juwan Jennings on his way back? Especially with the Aiyuk injury, you give Cowing and Pearsall a better chance to succeed if they're out there with Debo and Jennings and Kittle next week. But also specifically third downs, 2 of 11. Yeah, 2 of 11. So that's one of the big stories of the week. When does Juwan Jennings come back? Is Juwan Jennings on his way back? That sort of thing. Connor hits me with a note. Kyle Shanahan said in his post game that Juwan Jennings should be back for the Cowboys game. Great. It's a big deal. Sunday Night Football. Home game. Home game. Puesto. Hey, Benny is missed. I went to his wiki the other day, and for people who weren't with us last year, I interviewed him, and he said asked him about his name, Juwan, and he said he was almost named Benny. That's what his dad wanted to name him, and then his brother said, no, let's name him Juwan. And I went to his wiki the other day. I'm there now. It says on his wiki that his name is Benny Juwan Jennings. But it's not his name. But maybe it is his name. I'm confused now. He told me that's not his name. His name's Juwan. But it says Benny on Wiki, which I'm trying to figure out, did the Benny news make people think that his real name is Benny? Will Trent be suspended for the Cowboy game? He better not be. NFL doesn't really suspend guys for stuff, nor should they. Especially once they review the tape and see he was the second one to throw blows. Robbie, why does Debo play? Why does Debo pick the biggest games to sit out? Yeah, it does feel like that's the case. Should have kept Darnold. Well, you would not be going to Darnold in this spot. I would have loved to have kept Darnold just as the backup. Because I liked him, but that just was not an option. All right. Let's keep starring a few of those comments there, Connor. Let's see what else is getting said, but let's take a moment now for my prize pick segment. This is one of my favorite parts of watching sports these days is prize picks. Use the code guy. Go sign up right now. Use the code guy. There's a link down in the description. You can also just click that link. You use the code guy, you put $5 into your account. When you make a lineup, you just make a lineup. You don't have to win it. You just make a lineup, and you'll immediately get $50 into your account. When you use the code guy, great way to support the show, and you're going to have fun doing it. So let's dive in now for the weekly segment. The lineup is just 2 players or more. 2 players or more, all right? And up first, we're going to go with Derrick Henry, all right? More than 86.5 rushing yards. I'm going to show you how easy this is. Against the Bucs, he's been over 100 yards in half of his games this season. Bucs are middle in the pack in rush yards allowed, 113 a game. Baltimore is the best in the league in rushing. They're over 200 yards a game. By the way, that's 47 more yards than the Niners per game, who entered the weekend third. So I'm going Derrick Henry. I'm going to combine that with Lamar Jackson against the Bucs, more than 230.5 passing yards. The Bucs are 29th. If you're looking ahead for the Niners too after the bye, Bucs are 29th in yards allowed passing per game, 252. Lamar the last 2 weeks has been a beast. 320 against the Commanders, 350 against the Bengals, a 108 passer rating, which is actually better. Lamar's been a better passer this year than he was as an MVP last year. So that's number 2. And then I'm going to say this right now. Connor talked me into this one. All right. I think it's crazy, but he wants to go more on Baker Mayfield passing yards, 255.5 against the Ravens. He's averaging 248. He's thrown 15. Baker Mayfield's thrown 15 touchdowns. Don't look now. Ravens are banged up in the secondary. They're starting rookies. They're 31st in the league in yards passing allowed per game. Maybe the Bucs are down and Baker's got to throw. So that's that first lineup. We could go flex play, or we could just go for broke, hit all 3. If I go flex, I'm going to go flex on this just to show you. Because I don't have Baker one. Now Connor can tell me I told you so if we hit on that. But I'm going to go 2 out of 3. Okay, that pays 112 on 50. So I'm going to flex that one instead of going for a big hit there. And I'm going to feel good about that. All right. Lineup number 2. You can go. I did a baseball one the other night and I hit. But that wasn't on the show. I'm going to go Dobbins because they want me to do football. All right. So we're going to go J.K. Dobbins Chargers against Arizona, more than 79.5 rushing yards. Chargers 10th in the league in rushing. Of course, it's Harbaugh. Dobbins been a bright spot for them. Rushed for 96 yards himself in 3 out of the last 5 games. Arizona's 29th in rush yards allowed per game. Next up, we're going Marvin Harrison Jr. We're going to go more 52.5 receiving yards against the Chargers. Cleared concussion protocol, so he should play. He and Trey McBride have been the top targets on this offense. Chargers have a great pass defense, but at some point, prime time, bright lights, Ohio State guy, we're going with vibes here. Going with Marvin Harrison vibes. And then I'm going to go Justin Herbert. Less than 197.5 passing yards. Chargers only pass for 153 per game. Can you believe that? 29th in the league. All right. Herbert's has only passed for more than 197 once this year. Are you paying attention to the Chargers? Arizona's holding, 220 through the air. So I'm going to do that one again. And again, this one's weird. So I got an option here. I can either go 50 pays 112 for 2 out of 3, or if I guess that's if I hit all 3. I 1x the money if I hit 2. I'm going to play it safe again. It's normally not what I do, but we're trying to get a little momentum here. So there you go. You can go big, or you can kind of play it safe like I just did with those 2 picks. PrizePicks code guy. PrizePicks code guy. You use the code guy. You make a $5 lineup. You immediately get $50 into your account. A comment from Karen. Stop the Purdy hate. Cousins has $400 million for one playoff win. Tua and Trevor just got paid. Murray, Jones, Carr, Baker, Herbert have done what in the playoffs? I think it's a different standard. I'm not pro hate. Hate. But there's definitely a different standard when your team plays for championships. You're in championships. These are players that have had multiple coaching changes in their careers, right? Like, it's part of this. It's about Kyle and Brock, the 2 of them together. He's the best case. They're each the best case scenario for each other. So they got to make this thing work, and they got to find a way to solve these problems. Yeah. Bayron, why no Kyle trick plays ever on special teams? Because he wants the special teams play over as quickly as possible. And I got to tell you, generally, with this team, I would not mess around on special teams either. They can't execute the basic. We can't execute the basics. That we're not running trick plays. All right, Connor, anything I'm missing here? Big week this week. Oh, yeah, there is something I'm missing. Big week this week. Your boy, I'm calling undefeated Indiana against the University of Washington, 9 a.m. Pacific on Big Ten Network. And if you're wondering if that's a big game, just know this. College game day is going to be there. So it's a big-ass game. I'll be there for that. Until that, there's plenty of Niners to talk about. And they just put themselves in this position all the time. Like, we're mid-October, and they're playing games that feel like the whole season hinges on it. Not every year. They've played, they had a couple years, 6-0 and feeling good. But I feel like we've been in this position so many times with them. So many times. And here we are again. They found a way. They came out after that Cardinals loss and looked really good against Seattle. They almost gave it away, but looked good. Can they do it again? I know this. You lose to the Cowboys in this spot, and that is deep, 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 deep pain. So we'll see. Big pressure. Sunday Night Football. All right, y'all. Thanks for hanging today. Video, like button, subscribe, podcast. Appreciate 5 stars, and I'll talk to y'all soon. Missing anything, Connor? He says.